The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, please visit our website at www.dallasgenealogy.org.
Let's be now. And they're rare. So, what we intend to do today is celebrate the existence of the Dallas Genealogical Society. As you're going to see it in a few slides, depending on where you choose to mark to the beginning, or how you choose to mark to the beginning of the society, you're kind of a question of its reputation. But we have several different beginnings. Whenever it started, I think you're going to see at the end of the presentation, we have a remarkable history, and it's certainly worth celebrating anytime we choose to do so, and we're choosing to do this time now. We're going to take a look back at some of the significant accomplishments and some of the influential people who have helped shape the history of this great society. And since the focus of society so much is on the Dallas public law hierarchy, that's not an appropriate person sucks. I hope you can hear me. Dallas didn't know public library until 1801. There was a group of citizens around the turn of the century that said we really need to have a library in the city, promoted forward as Ashby and Ford, started raising some funds. They founded a $50,000 grant for Gator Breeze, where it was a fill that dream. And this library, built in the corner of Commerce and Harvey Streets and opened in 1901, was the first Dallas public library. The first floor contained the volume, or the collection, just around 10,000 volumes. On the second floor, initially, was an auditorium and art room, although later in history, the library did move some reference material upstairs. But in the real parts of the 1900s, this year I'm talking about the Dallas Public Library, that's where I built there. In 1930, June 1st, this article ran on the Dallas Morning Reviews. It was an advertisement with an intention to form what was then called the Dallas Genealogical Society. I think it's interesting to see what some of their objectives of a listed newspaper article were. They wanted to foster an interest in genealogy and local history. They wanted to provide research facilities and connection with genealogical material in the Dallas Public Library and other local centers. They wanted to concentrate on the collection of genealogical, biological, and vital work in Dallas. And then this one. Employ a confident genealogist, aid members of tracing their Americans. So to understand that, I will just refer you to an article in the anniversary edition of Paces, which talks about the kind of genealogists who are on to provide you some money, you actually research a family, produce a book, and present it to you. And sometimes it even contain actual real information about your family. And so there's a lot of these kinds of people running around at the time. In fact, there was actually a lawsuit about suit here in Dallas themselves. One of the other members of this early edition of our society testified in that trial. I mean, unfortunately, the company that was ripping the family out, nothing, but that was just kind of about how it was back in the day. There was an organization meeting on October 3rd when it held at the North Dallas High School. But this man, E.D. Comstock, who also happened to be the principal of that school, was elected the first president of the society. The following year, they elected John Howard Dean, notable for being just a hair before he colony Chin, was elected as second president of the society. And we know that he was so president in 1933 when the EJS donated copies of the 1850, 60, and 70 census records to Dallas County to the library. What's interesting was how we got them, E.D. Comstock went to D.C. and transcribed them from the originals. Tagged them out down the mob and presented the book to the library. But as far as they tell, that's about the last we hear of this original edition of our society. Just kind of fade from sight. But given what's going on in the country and going on in the world, it's really kind of understandable. It's the height of the pressure. In 1932, people were concerned about whether the bank was in the open or if their savings would be there. This was the time of the Lone March. The World War I veterans who marched on Washington to try and demand early payment that had been promised to them for service in World War I. It was about the time of Pierre's first term as president, and people were standing in long lines just to get food. It was the time that the Indians, the Indian Conservation Corps, was established. By 1935, there'd be more than 500,000 net enrolled in this program. And if you know that the very family resemblance of the Nanahalf sort of Reddick, says he, my father, we served every few years. As if the economy wasn't bad enough, we had things called Dust Bowl. We had dust storms rolling across Kansas, like this one in 1935, this one and him in 1936. So it's understandable that the early people that tried this society going and really pressing important things on my mind, and genealogy first wasn't one of them, apparently. Fortunately, the Dallas Library had their site on the history, and they hired this one, Margaret Louise Barrett Craft, in 1837. She was a Venice Community graduate. She had met and married a fellow seminary graduate. and by this time was widowed and had a 8-year-old son, and was hired as a reference librarian, working in the original library. And you're going to hear a lot about her in future presentations. She had a lot of influence on this library and on us. She was there all through World War II. She was there through the Korean incident. People didn't actually participate in, like to call it. It was an on-off war. And finally, things kind of settled down, globally, economically, socially. And, about 1954 and 1955, people started to form societies and get together again. At this time, the city of Dallas realized they had outgrown the original Carnegie Library and were in the process of carrying it down into Oklahoma. So all of the books were moved over to a temporary location in Union Station. See, big enough building and strong enough building to support all the books. And so that was the location that was covered by a very courteous couple of the year period. During this time, Margaret Pratt was given a donation, a whopping $50, and both spent it wisely, and she very wisely spent it all on one book. The book produced for printing BT6 on Virginia Huguenots, which also played a prominent role here in that. She was there, and a man named John Left Reed came in. Like the genealogist, he had interested in genealogy because his mother had died. He received a bunch of stuff from her. And going through there, he came across something that he just didn't understand. Of course, he went her to the Dallas Public Library for some help and said, "I got this thing about French Huguenots. You know anything about that?" And she had just recently received the book and gave it to Louis Grand Cross, helped him at his genealogy moving again, and just really cemented his interest in genealogy. This is the time with Walker's, B. Brown Walker, who I believe was going to be, seen selected president in 1963. His wife, who was one of the first secretaries, were frequent patrons of the library as well. So all these people met there and considered the influence of Margaret Pratt. When Don Green, our first term, said, "Do you think it's time to try to organize another genealogy society?" She said, "Yeah, I think it's a really good idea." She started calling all of the patrons who she knew were interested in genealogy. They were on my side of that. They had no request. We need to be able to meet that night, take them to meet during the day. Temporary library wasn't open during the day, so she arranged through some connections she had to use our auditorium over at the Dallas Howard and Light Auditorium, or Dallas Farm Light Building, to use our auditorium. And that's why they had this organizational meeting. Apparently, really well, people thought, "And radio, let's do this." So on October 26th, they held the first monthly meeting at the downtown YMCA over on Hervey Street. John Mead was on the board of directors there and was able to use associates. They decided to select the name of Local Historical and Genealogy Society as the name of this instantiation of their group. John Green was elected the first president. Next slide sees he becomes the first president of the first society was named as the chairman of the temporary finance committee. So that do kind of closed some 25 years later. The purpose of the organization is kind of interesting to read. I think it's fun to see what the people who started the society thought was important. Not to mention the fact that this is all what's still written in our charter, our file with the state. So this is as much true for this organization today as it was once created back in 1955. So the purpose of the organization was to create, foster, and maintain interest among citizens of Dallas County in the genealogy and local history section of the Dallas Public Library. To collect, preserve information related to those pioneers who settled Dallas County into the early history of the city and county. To preserve church, cemetery, and land records, testamentary documents, diaries, and manuscripts, and other source material wherein chronicle the achievements of those who laid in the wilderness foundation of this great community. To copy and index all such records and catalog them so as to make this information most rapidly available to present and future generations. To collect and make available through the Dallas Public Library, published records for other states once came to Texas pioneers. And to exchange ideas and collaborate in devising efficient methods for genealogical and historical research. So very true to what we're doing today, I will be. The first educational program is held that February. It was a how-to session on genealogy made by John Green, then president, and Aunt Margaret Scrums, who was one of the first directors of the society, and again held at the YMCA. They started publishing a newsletter right away, the beginning of a very long and crowd publishing history of the society, which we'll talk more about in just a minute. And began doing what they've been doing for 50 years, acquiring and creating records. And so they started working on ethnography and helped with other societies purchase some census records for 1888, and again, we care a lot about that. In 1955, the new library opened at the site of the old Carnegie Library. The city had hired some consultants and received some advice on how to organize the libraries to different regions they had originally, And one of the recommendations was to combine history and the genealogy departments together into one group. They decided to do that. In Bill Department, practicing the first head of the Texas History Genealogy Department with the library. The first clinic, kind of the format of our symposiums and seminars and institutes and everything else, was held in October and November, was 4 2-hour presentations on how to preserve family records and do family research. And unlike what we do today, this one was actually free and open to the public. In November, the charter was presented to the members that were present at the meeting. And so those that were there were able to sign it. So there we actually have our 32, the first charter signing members of the society. And this was signed, filed with the state of Texas and stamped as officially creating the Dallas Genealogical the historic, whatever. You what? Local History and Genealogical Society. So we became official as a society in December 1955, which was by plan or my amazing coincidence, but I think it was planned, was why we issued the 60th anniversary edition of Pegasus last December to mark the 60th anniversary of the society. And for us to launch a year of celebration we're concluding with today. So if you're wondering why I picked the dates that we did, we were either incredibly foresightful or incredibly lucky. This, of course, was all really chronicled in the newsletter, and Mark changed to just his newsletter, mentioning the fact that we incorporated officially. We spent an incredible amount of time going back over all of the publications that we produced over the years, which is the basis for much of what we've done. And so it's worth spending just a few minutes talking about the evolution and the history of these many publications and the various forms that they've taken. So I'm going to do that. And also, when at the Bishop of Christian Institute, they have an opportunity to have a drawing for one of our lovely EGS hats. So I'm going to count the number of publications that were produced. In the end, where whichever group of people guess the right numbers, so I have an opportunity to win one of these EGS hats. So keep your fingers crossed. So as I said, it started right in 1855 with what I'm kind of referring to as a newsletter. It was published kind of sporadically. They did 7 the first year, and then 2, and then 2, and then 6 in 1958. But finally, by 1959, they settled on our Great Way Crusade and then 4 times a year. It was referred to inside either as the bulletin or the newsletter or the quarterly, but it wasn't until 1964 that they actually changed the name of the publication to the quarterly. So this first part started out kind of music folksy, but it pretty quickly got into being more records and then the biology and read data as our current edition of Pegasus is. But looking back here, really, Psyche 55 Convention Secret Pre-Query, it was more of a newsletter than anything else. So I kind of broke it out in separate category. So through 1962, he published 37 of these early newsletters. In 1964, they released it quarterly. It wasn't until 1985 that they released the Dallas Quarterly. Initially, it was a larger anti-11 publication, and eventually they squeezed it down to a smaller 5.5 by 8.5 stable bin, before you what I read as cost-saving measure. And this was published 21 years. The last issue was produced in December of 1994. And it was produced, amazingly, 4 times a year, written up to your 4 every man. So there's 124 of these produced, bringing our total so far to 161. In 1976, we began issuing publishing the newsletter. And we're still, unfortunately, of all these publications that I'm talking about, the only one issue that they're missing is the very first edition of this newsletter. We thought we had, but what they have is quarterly newsletter. So folks up in Paris, Texas, they found it for us that they did. We published 211 of these over the years, so the last one being issued in January 2015. So it reached total to 472. In 1995, we ceased publishing quarterly and went to an annual journal. And this again is a larger 8.5 by 11. And this is printed through 2004. In 2001, Major won the first prize from the Texas State Genealogical Society in the Journal of Public Spelling Contest. One of the years of our award, so we'll get a nice award from that. We did 18 of those, so our grand total was 490. But we had one more thing, the Pegasus. And then 2013, we ended the publication of the journal and replaced with the Pegasus, the Journal of the Dallas Genealogical Society. And so we now, since they have been publishing this twice a year, in 2014, under our rectorship of Marion Zalba, this was again recognized by the Texas State Genealogical Society and the official Genealogical Society contest when we received first place. As I said, the Yak-6 bill is bringing our winning number up to 496. So Todd or Christian, do you have a bid that is another C?
Yes.
Listen.
Had core people who guessed that, right?
Come in there.
Well, you should remember.
I'll say them anyway. Do look honest. David, me?
Thank you very much. Just also.
Only 4 people. In 2010, they began creating something then known as the e-glass, an all-electronic way of communicate. We renamed that the e-news 2016, and this is now the official DGS electronic newsletter. The advantage of that is just frequency. We've sent about 170 of these out over the period. That's about one or twice a month. So we like it because it's very easy and lets us communicate with you very quickly and very frequently. But we did include that in the account just because it didn't seem fair. Our logos evolved along with everything else. In 1963, they created our first logo. But if you go back to the March 1963 newsletter, there's an article that describes what the star represents, what the laurel wreath represents. So I just encourage you to go take a look at the website and read more about what they were thinking when they thought this up. So I thought it's not to be that sorry. I did accept the raw user. In 1975, American Carol Cuffer redesigned the logo for us. And that's very lovely. And so decided, of course, to rename the society and change the logo again in 1977. So this was the logo that we had since 1977, and the name effect, the G train deck then as well. Probably because of the charter. It's in 1963 we chose to update the original charter because originally the charting style is a 50-year organization, and they changed it then to perpetual. And I guess that was kind of the time they said, well, gee, maybe logo it. So that's when we came up with that. In 1976, we updated the charter again with the name change. At that point, we went from the Local History and Genealogical Society to the Dallas Genealogical Society, the name we've had since December 1976. Today's history statement is just kind of a condensation of those original points that we have, and we chose to use this as the way that we're going to organize the rest of the presentation. So in a minute, Carol Gates is going to come up here and talk to us about what we have done to educate by creating, fostering, and maintaining interest in genealogy. She's then followed by Barbara Ware, who thought that we'll talk to us about these who then collect, preserve, copy, and index information related to Dallas County and sort of history. Kathleen Murray's going to talk to us about the things that have done to assist and support the genealogy section of the J.R. Casson Central Library in Dallas. And then Lloyd Bochter is going to be the sixth perspective on how this looked from his side of the desk and since right there, and then wrap up and close things up for us. So in the spirit of healthy football rules of period 5, did you read Carol alerts?
Yes.
Richard.
Yes, please.
Those are here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh. Okay. I'm not sure. So telling me it's just this way and that way. Technologically challenged.
Where is this funny touch?
Yes, we have. The my point today is talk about our one of our missions to educate by creating, fostering, and maintaining an interest in genealogy. We certainly have done that in spades, I think, over the last 60 years. It's always been an important mission for us. One of the first ways that we have helped to educate our members has been the sponsorship of our Salt Lake City trips. As the first trip was in November 1963. Sandy Lee and Dorothy Bruce organized the first one, and I think the first few, the DGS members with research experience in the Famous History Arab Library acted as guides. Before the group went, there were pre-trip orientation classes. There was a special get acquainted reception at the hotel in Salt Lake City when people arrived, and a banquet or a dinner on Monday evening with a nationally known genealogist. The first several, I believe, were fundraisers for the DGS Capital Extension Project, which was the extension of the 8th floor genealogy section in Dallas Public Library. Barbara Bayless, Madeline Cree, Hatcher, and Art Rubeck also were guides in the first, at least the first trip, and I think some of the first few. Our members helped with research problems that participants had, and they arranged for Salt Lake City professional genealogist Arlene Epples to do 1-hour sessions with each person. And there were about 20 people. There were 25 people and 6 guides on that first trip. We peaked in 1998, which was the 6th trip, with 33 people, 49 participants, 3 guides, and 1 board meter. The last trip we had was in 2012. It was during the second trip, which was mainly 1994, Lloyd Bossart went along and provided a private one-on-one consultation for each participant during that week. So this was an incredible educational opportunity for the people who were able to make it, and it was very popular. It looked like there was a job party going on there in the top slide. But anyway, from left to right, according to some, because I identify these people for me, I don't do them all. Art Brubeck, Darky Bruce, Jim Shedley, Jerry Allen, Cheryl Slope, Jan Cunningham, Mary Hill Cohen, and Jenny Fayos. So this was part of it, was the first, this was during the second trip. And the bottom, I don't remember one of the bottom photo, which year that was, but again, this was a great educational opportunity for our people. We have not organized a trip since 2012, but Receipt goes every year, and they're going again in what month are you going?
October.
Oh, there you are, October.
Last winter, October.
Last week, October. So there's still a great deal of interest in people doing this, and Receipt, if you're interested, I'll be publishing some information about how you might join with the Mystique group. But another major way in which we have provided educational opportunities for our group is that has many different names over the decades, whether they have been workshops, lectures, seminars, institutes. The focus has always been the same: to bring to Dallas nationally known and respected genealogy lecturers, writers, and scholars for the education of our genealogical community. Some of our earliest educational lectures, which Tony pointed out in this section, were featured DGS members as instructors in the beginning, and were which shows the depth of talent that was here in Dallas. Tony also talked about our first workshop in October, November 1955, how to preserve fan writers into historical research. By 1956, the three seminars began. And then about 1987, the fall symposium and the beginners workshop were combined. As I say, over the years, we've had a lot of different names, but excuse me, I need to use some mouse here to mute my what's that? I'm not used to using a mouse. Here it's, I got it. Need to move it over. Here it is. I apologize. I have few statistics for you. I don't want to bore you with that, but for 1975 and 76, the average attendance 100. 1981, the July symposium had 415 attendees, and they kept getting, they were larger. We moved our meetings to the Dallas Convention Center, so for many of them. So by the late 1980s and the early 1990s, we were our seminars and the institutes sometimes had 700 plus attendees. Elizabeth Shown Mills, I think, had the record in 1991 was 724 or something like that. So we provided a lot of educational materials over the years. Okay. By night, we also started a week-long program in the summer called the Institute of Genealogical Studies in the mid-90s. And it was in a week-long intensive school. For example, from 1996, we organized a week-long gathering. There were 8 tracks: basic genealogy, intermediate genealogy, advanced genealogy, census, or creator problem solving. For land's sake, analysis and flagging, military paper trail, on the road with IGS, exploring research facilities, and the last track was from colonial Englishmen to revolutionary Americans. And we also organized a welcome reception, a formal dinner, research time, and a Dallas Public Library problem-solving sessions, and evenings were devoted to computers and the internet and instructors' roundtable discussion. So when they said it was a very intensive time. These seminars have been many fundraising activity over the years, and these presentations have benefited the Society and Dallas Public Library. Our attendees have been exposed to the best teachers and seaters in the genealogy and family history fields. And here are a list of some of the ones that we had over the decades. I think, from what I could find, at our third clinic, which is what we originally called it in 1958, we had our first teacher seeker who was not a DGS member. And that was Mrs. Virginia Taylor, who is the archivist of the State Library in Austin. And of course, over the decades since then, we've had more people than I could get on one slide. But I wanted to say, one of the speakers that we had, and I'm not sure, but it was Martha Hoffman Rising. And just said a press release yesterday from the National Genealogical Society conference in Fort Lauderdale that she was elected to the National Genealogy Hall of Fame, and we knew her when. So, so many of our our speakers are just immensely talented and qualified. 60 years of courses are impossible to distill onto one slide, but the titles of these examples of our programs illustrate the depth and breadth of the educational experiences that DGS has provided to our genealogical community. So I'm not going to read them all, but just for your 60 years of research, we have provided a great deal of information. A subset of this has been beginner and advanced genealogy classes, teaching our members and others how to do genealogy research. And it was an annual workshop in the fall for many years, taught by DGS members, and that's, I think, is very important that our local members are very experienced teachers themselves. From 1969 through 1972, DGS helped to teach an 8-week class at El Centro. That was organized by Mrs. Lush and Mr. Conger. And they covered, and these were local members who were speakers, Mrs. Morris, Mrs. Platt, Judge D. Brown Lawford did the seminar on legal aspects of genealogy. Our first president, Mr. Reed, did genealogical research in North Carolina, and others. And in the past few years, an abbreviated 4-class program has been developed by DGS members and presented at various venues. We've been presented as Central Library, we presented at several various libraries. We've gone to retirement villages, Clyde Warren Park, the Texas State Genealogical Society when it was at Fort Worth a few years ago. So this is a program of ours that we have started at the beginning and are still doing in 1-4 even today. Now 6, another way in which DGS has supported its mission of education is to feature an instructional program at each monthly meeting presented by local experts in many different fields. And this exchange of ideas happens often in this smaller setting. So in addition to the big seminars that we put on, our monthly meeting each month is the programs have been very informational. Our current Director of Education, Cheryl Freeman, who is at DGS and not here today, compiled this session. So with our variety of meeting places, as some of you may remember, I have been a member only since 2009, so I didn't remember the meetings at Dallas Public Library. But apparently we met at Wyatt's Cafeteria. Over the years, the University Park met at this church, so the monthly meetings had been spread around. And here are some of our speakers that Cheryl compiled. The Dallas area has no lack of expert speakers. And these, both DGS members and others have presented programs at our monthly meetings over the decades. And these are some of our colleagues. Many times related to the Dallas, North Texas area, sometimes of a broader nature, but always instructional. And the award for the most current presented to GTS in starring role, we won't ask you to make an acceptance speech, but You can see he has honored us with his knowledge over the many, many years and size. So we are pleased to have been the recipients of his induction. Another way that we have been educating our members is the special interest groups, which were organized to answer the needs of specific groups of members for discussion of common interests within the genealogy field. The first one and the longest running one, I believe, is the computer city, which is now known as the technology city. But it was plain meeting was held in January of 1989, and then originally met for an hour before the general meeting. Pat Hatcher was the first leader, followed by Don Reed, and there had been others since then. But I believe the second one is the African American genealogical interest group in terms of Cavati case. I know it's scored by 1995 or RLNA, not one specific date, but I went through a lot of the newsletters and I wasn't able to find the exact date. Also, a professional interest group was formed at that time. There was for a time a Latin American interest group. And John Wiley, he was very involved in the interest groups at the beginning. Said he recalls one for a while that was for the British Isles. There was a digitization group. The MacGen Union group, which I'm a member of, was formed in 2006. So we're already at our 10th anniversary when we meet in Jeep. We don't know what we'll do, but we'll have a celebration ourselves. And our newest, formed in 2015, I believe, is Badime Six. Our six had organized, they dissolved, they've regrouped as the special interests of our members that changed and developed. The current six are the African American group. Donald Payton and Lois Ludwig have led that. The Brown Bag, which is a continuation of the professional interest group. Leaders have been Jen Kashab and Liz Coots. DNA is led by Mick Barnett. The Jewish Civic leader is Liz Coots. The Managing leader is Happy Quirk, and the technology leader is Susan Youngberg. These there are six, and our organization allows for the formation of others. So there is a group of people who want to do that, to form another special interest group. We could do that. And Larry Hawkins is the last slide. It was originated in 1977 as a thing of West Annie as a thank you to volunteers who helped stage the very successful National FGS conference that was held in Dallas in 1997. And I understand that the original lock-ins went from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Yep. Did they really? It's the first one I heard I think ended at 1 or 2. And I knew we went on to Denny's to eat again. But anyway, again, a great way. The Dallas Public Library was very generous in providing space, and the staff stayed on to help us. We closed the library, and just the DGS members were there for the evening. And it was reinstated as part of our 2014 Summer Symposium, and that we have not done it for a few years. And it was very successfully received. And a lot of Latin dances for people when they found what they were looking for during their lock-ins. And our next presenter is Barbara Ware, and she will talk to you about Corby Wazobi Corby.
Hello there. Now, I'm only going to wear this little thing a short time since Packley bought it. No, I like that. You like it? Yeah. Look at this. It does. My staff used to, I would go to staff development meetings at the state level, and my staff was always embarrassed because they would have some kind of little hack thing we had to do, and I would be the one up there doing a little hack thing.
People use it.
So as Paulita said earlier, the educational purpose of, I can't see, guys, the educational focus of the Global History and Geological Society was spelled out in the objectives as part of the chart. Today, our mission summarizes those objectives. Let's look at some of the projects we've engaged in over the past 60 years to illustrate the work of the Society toward these objectives. The first project was begun by the Global History and Geological Society was the listing of the genealogically related books and materials that Dallas called the Library. This was patterned after a similar project in St. Louis, Missouri, which published in book form their report in 1953. Yeah, a little member in the Library on Commerce Harvard opened in 1954. In more recent times, CGS has published new acquisitions first in the newsletter and later on the website. Shirley Sloat created a book, Dallas County Records at the Library 2011, which she has graciously made available to individuals via the DGS website. Two other aids for researching Dallas County have been provided by EGS. One is the book Dallas Search, which is also available on the website, and the other is the Dallas County, Texas Genealogy Wiki. That's because somebody got Dallas County before we did, and so we created Dallas County Wiki on the Brandon Search website. Early on, society readers sought visitors to participate in projects during announcements at meetings and e-collocations. These projects yielded a number of useful books and microforms. Over time, the office continued to reach out to the society and pursue volunteer projects through its publications, personal contacts, and needs. Some of that bar quizzing, would you like to participate in this project? All we have does available about you try it. And now we look for our volunteers in addition to the old ways through the DGS website. So let's think strong with some of the projects that are taken by the Society as members. Now, there's not time to cover everything, but if you're interested, you can go back through the newsletters or quarterly, the journal, and Pegasus, because they are all available on the DGS website. There's also an index from 1955 to 1993, my off check. It's called the Index of the Quarterly, but it really covers some more than the year is up a quarterly. I found it very interesting. I found a lot of cemetery news in there, so I was going copying the cover pages of each of those newsletters quarterly to see what cemeteries we had put onto the website. The Dallas County Records Inventory Project began in the fall of 1973 when North Texas State University received a grant under Title I of the Higher Education Act of 1965 to conduct a statewide survey of county records. The project was undertaken for several reasons: to provide information of existing local records for the Regional Historical Research Depository Program of the Texas State Library, to locate and preserve valuable historical materials, and to provide a database for record manual for county officers. The Dallas Genealogical Society, under the leadership of Helen Lou and Mark Smith, undertook the Dallas County effort, which yielded 35 rolls of Dallas County probate records. These rolls are now available on the 8th floor Geology Department. EGS members were involved in the project with the support of County Clerk Larry Murdoch surprised Honolulu when he announced that he had arranged for the Business Records Corporation to donate a microfilm pure in recognition of the work done by the local society. A surprise of the project was the location of 2 land grants in one of the probate packets. These land grants were Gillian Pepperja, who was a Peter's Commonly So. And these were signed by Governor Sam Houston. The first critic abstract, the Dallas County Rules, is published in the newsletter in 1957. The probate cases have continued to provide volunteer opportunities for the society. Most recently, a searchable index based on total news published in events was added to the BGS website. And since then, the fields have been digitized, placed on the oral affixes history, and the index is being matched with the digitization society BGS volunteers. Society members have provided marriage records for publication as early as 1956. There are many locations inside and outside of Texas. So when you look at our newsletters in the beginning, you see a lot of records not Dallas County. Because after all, our citizens in Texas hate for many other states. Many individuals have participated in the preparation and publication of these Dallas County marriages over time. The first marriage recorded in Dallas County was George W. Cox and Mary Carver, and that was on 30 August 1846. DGS purchased the library films of the Marriage License Index, which covers 1846 to 1963. And now the project is being discussed to match the printed marriage record that we have published with the microfilm license index to place them online. The first set of church records collected by the Society were those of the First Methodist Church of Cedar Hill, as announced in the February 1955 newsletter. At this time, we have not found those records. We have checked in the archives. Of course, they're not closed right now. We checked stairs and looked everywhere, but we have not located either transcription nor these records. Other church records in an abstract have been published in either microform or printed format. Then the manuscript collection of the 7th floor Texas Dallas History Archives is an original book for the Dallas Circuit East Conference of the Methodist Church, covered 1850 to 1860. The church is listed, and these are not Sunday school lists, basically. Church is include Dallas, McKinney, Liberty, Honey Creek, Cedar Spring, Webb's Chapel, Cottonwood, Spring Creek, and Duck Creek. Members are designated by gender and by race. These are the transcribed and published texts. Cemeteries all over Dallas County have been published in various formats. This map illustrates where there is a cemetery that we have published something about, even if it's just rest number. Said we say, we're not doing that cemetery. Our Laurel Lane are some of the bigger ones. So some is in a publication by DGS. There's a complete list of all the Dallas County cemeteries of the map on the DGX website. Usually those were not color shade drivers. The society is published 5 volumes and transcripts, and the 6 were placed online. And 6 is very special to me because when Adrienne Jackson was ready to retire, she gave me a printout of the one that had not been published. We had it in print form, so I took those and we put them on the website. So Adrienne's work and that of Helen Liu and Ruanne Darnell has been complete. Okay. Many people have words on the cemeteries. These are just a few that I was able to find. And of course, the largest cemetery project, and Susan always asks, is so to give us hope for finish, is open to finish. This is the largest project for a cemetery. Has the work that they did for Oakley Cemetery. There are 26,000 burials plus online. It was a massive undertaking. The work online is completed. However, we continue to get initial information from individuals for open and other cemeteries through our website. So we continue to update the website with information. I'd have Susan come and tell us, and here's CVR, so. As Susan come and tell us a little bit about our new cemetery project. Hello. We got a great opportunity when earlier this year, Very Grace contacted DGS and asked us to participate in a trial of having a society organize a one-day photo shoot of an entire cemetery. And so we identified the Pleasant Mound private cemetery located at Saline and Buckner, partly because there was a cemetery of 7.5 acres, about 3,000 burials. But there were 3 other cemeteries in close proximity: the Pleasant Mound Public Cemetery and Historic, the Elmwood Cemetery, and then the Miss Akin Jewish Cemetery, all right at the corner of Saline and Buckner. We put together a project, Kathleen Murray, Anson Barbara Ware, and I, working with Billy Braze and My Heritage. You may recall that Billy Braze is now associated with My Heritage, and they really wanted to see if a society could put together a little project to do this. We came to you and asked the volunteers to help photograph the cemetery, and you responded very politically, very successfully. On April 23rd, there were about 18 of us who at 7:30 on a Saturday morning got up and went to the Pleasant Mound Cemetery, and within a couple of hours photographed the complete cemetery, and then by the end of the week had those photographs uploaded, and we have about half of those now transcribed. So we think this was a very successful project. And I know some of you that were there at the Saturday project are here today, so would you stand up and be recognized as participating in this project? Please. It's a section of other folks that we've most successful. And right now, we have plans to do some more projects like that. I'm ready to wait for this little cooler. It was cool at 7:30, like 10 o'clock, it was getting a little warm. But thanks everyone who participated. Thanks Chambi, Kathleen, and Barbara for helping organize the project. We thank you all very much. You're very successful. In tandem with cemeteries, funeral home records provide a wealth of information about our ancestors. The Society, through its volunteers, have provided information from 3 or more local funeral homes. So I'd ask Ken to come talk about our newest funeral home project.
No, I get these. It's
Very that effect. Lost Project, so this is our newest project, which is the McGowan Syndicate project. Now, a funeral project series in Central. And we have folders, the person story. The McGowan Syndicate funeral home project started with the Dallas Historical and Archives Division of the Dallas Public Library acquired the McGowan collection under its collection development policy in 2007. And Tony's already told us about 10,000 files. So I'm about to figure how many years it's going to take us to them do all so. But each file has a folder. Each we then put we have a database that we enter the information in, and the computer gives us a number. But the people who are working on each vase, and I'll be back to that, who will put a number on the vase and enter it database, and our computer will give us a number. Now, when we first started the program, after we received the files from the archive department, the African American section of C Group changed all the files
from McGowan's old files, which were the acid folders, to the acid-free folders. As after we went in every folder, and they had paper clips, staples. You know how people put vases in a bag, don't they? May stick you pick, yeah. But we took all the, like I say, take clips, and it wasn't, I won't say wasn't point, but I made paper clips, metal out of these folders, but kept everything else that was in the folders. Now, every folder is an individual like people, because it's people that did, but there is one component in each folder, but every folder has. Can you tell me what that is? What's it? That's that's right. So, in doing the files, we had to pay people, bought up with Ernie Banks up there. Was there? Ernie Banks, his brother, McGowan, had this, and his dad. So I brought one that's older to show you what, or some of the, some things, information that you will find, and you thought, ooh, how far, okay. Yeah, you might have to try to. So there's just a kid at Ernie Banks, he wrote a letter to a guy, the older of the guys, Marjorie Aljo and George again. So the very day he wrote a letter to McGowan's sad, because he was preparing him for the service that he gave us, his brother veteran, and he did what for his dad, Ada, and spoke us. Each, we have loose fight to click, jail, lamp source. Yeah. But here's the newspapers from Benjamin Bays is loose over there, I had. And there's a newspaper clipping, so some folders have newspaper clipping. Some folders have a program, and with the teachers, some folders do not. Programs deny our teachers, and some holders have more obituaries and some don't. And obituaries are printed in the field program. There's other information, for example, Ernie has something that papers about its trade and metals information. This is about some of this train, and everyone doesn't supply a picture. Like I said, every field program doesn't have a picture. Every file that's in our Bruce doesn't have all the same information, because sometimes McGowan will transfer bytes to other mortuaries, and there's no information. So some bytes are big, and some are very yet it's six. And so, well, like somebody already told you about how many files are going itching in the database. So we're waiting to get our database updated. These check people. Because I don't know how to tell you a person, but I need to get them clear. But when we enter a file in the database, we get most of the information from the death certificate. Now, if you're a Dallas genealogist, you'll look to the folder carefully. Now, RL created a information sheet, and all you have to do is go down land information. So you just go down the list. You go to the folder, see what's in the folder, check it off, that is in it. And then when the person comes to do the data entry, all they have to do is look on the information sheet and enter in the data lake for some information sheet.
But like I said, if you're a dialogue genealogist, you're going to go further than that.
Information should you limit the forward like I do to make sure that information she is correct. Because sometimes, without death certificate that some of my guidance people have written out, and on the information, somebody might flip their shade there, death certificate. But if you look at that older, you just might find original death certificate. Because several photos have name, and several photos have handwritten death certificates on the arms. And I'm going to include into the information on the database. We put the collection number for the McGowan collection of our collections available in the Care Project. But one thing about the database, you cannot put the whole number of the collection because the way programming only takes so many characters. But we get the main character, which is MA07. But the whole number is MD0715. And the thing I say now, I heard so much every time, whenever a boss is finished, a boss and boss is finished, we always have enough. We summon and start, the next line. No matter it's the same year. If there's 3 boxes for 1970, each one of those boxes is going to have the different number. So it's easy for people to find etc. I'm wondering, because how big it might be confused if we had the same number for the whole year. And the gal's file started in 1956 and the old up to the 1990s, early for the 1990s. And some of our files, some of the 1980s are missing. So I don't know where they are. They say they're missing. And we had heard that a person, some guy handler, somebody could contact him to get the missing files. So I think I give you all the information what you need about this book.
This is not an indexing project or a transcription project. This is a true archival project. They prepare your records in a way that architects would want them prepared, and her how she described by sending folders. So they work a lot kind of, we're going to say, or like it used to say, Susan, when is it going to be true? But we do have, I totally showed you this earlier, we do have online the records that so far been put into the available put into the website. And I'm sure this will be changed and improved over time. Something is available and up, so at least a little bit is there. What about other funeral homes? What about in the future? Well, I was looking through the yours upstairs one day and found that the edition of the Etsy Snip that had already published 3 years. We have 1909 to 1993, plus we have the Davos or Etsy Snip in the back. There's also the George A. Brewer records that are available indoors on the 8th floor. So maybe this is the potential for a future indexing job for funeral home bearers. Right, I began working on when I first joined, when I first came down and started researching was the little and grab registration projects. One of the things you could do is you could come down to the library. They had the computer set up, EGS did, and they had the microfilm from the little underwrapped records there. And you could, if you did an hour or 2 hours, I can't remember what it was, you did some hours, then you got the parking free for that cost. So that's one of the first ways that encourage people to do that. We actually completed this year one. I was the journal editor at the time, and that's how I discovered that there were 5 districts in Dallas having on just one district east south. By this time, for the notes had started digitizing the records, And then, of course, that's pulled 3 out. And, of course, Ancestry has it. So we suspended our index project at that point because it's being done professional. Many of the publications that the Dallas Genealogical Society publishes, of course, are available on the library, but a number of them are available for purchase on our website. So you can go to the DGS store and look at the work of society members over time in publishing either in fiche or print format, the records of Dallas County. Is it give you all can work on these projects, and many of you have, and you contributed to these stories. I'd like to explain. You work on an EGS project, anyhow. Please say. Ooh, I thank you for your service. Just say. I know that the librarians appreciate those records. Gail has just to me wonderful it is to have the cemetery records on, see what kind of look at those and ask for the information based on power records online. And so Papa here we have you.
We picked all these pictures because we wanted to see our different ages around 1954 to 56. So that's me on the front porch reading a magazine when I'm 5 years old, 4 years old.
See, but what's it about?
I don't remember this. So I'm going to talk about the third consolidated mission of the Society to assist and support the genealogy session of the J. Eric Johnson Central Library in Dallas, Texas. By now, you all know that we've had 4 locations from Dallas Public Library, and this is just letting you see each one of those. Since the very beginning, I think the thing that I'll choose the first cover of the first newsletter, published in February of 1955. It's volume 1, number 1. And you can see that from the very beginning, society did its work by cooperating with the Dallas Public Library. And Margaret Louise Sarah Crabb, whom you've heard Tony mention, was here from 1937. She retired in 1962. She started as an assistant librarian in the reference department on the 2nd floor of the Carnegie Library. She herself was in charge pretty much of developing that collection. In 1954, she organized the first meeting of people who were interested in a genealogy breast farming society. And in 55 or 62, she became the first director of what was called the Local History and Genealogy Department at the Dallas Public Library. She was among the signatories on the charter in November 1955. She served on the board of directors from 57 until 71. Retiring in 62, she had a number of different positions on the board of directors. She bridged definitely every single location that this library was in. She was at the beginning of the genealogy department, and she retired from it. I do fascinating more into research, and I wish I could just talk about her all morning. I keep going backwards. The first acquisition that I was able to identify in society that was formed in 55-6, particularly was that of the acquisition of an 1808 census. Many of these archaeologies were actually done by a cooperative effort with primarily patriotic and lineage societies. This one was led by E.C. Sheaver. Her hang was where of this silver gold. She was quite. She's great. She also, when you get to go back and look at some of the histories of these people, they, she was more of the same year as Margaret Pratt. They graduated within a year from SMU. They were both in the Daughters of the American Republic, book chapter. So there's a lot of cross history that goes on with these folks. And they've been right in the first newsletter, so there you see the effort being made put in the newsletter. They issue manual checks payable to the Dallas Public Library, which you mark in the lower half-hand corner for the ETA Texas Census. By August of 55, the microfilms haven't been acquired. And at this point in time was early tied and bound by, and it was Mr. Breen who had done that of the 1850, 60, and 70 Texas census were replaced by microfilm. 6 decades of support is what they're celebrating here. And during that period of time, there's been books, film, and equipment that the society has given to the library. There's been specific campaigns for anniversaries, for preservation efforts, for acquisitions, as well as cash donations. I'm going to go somewhat quickly through it so it's not entirely boring, and I have Shirley Slow here to talk about a couple of the projects. In 1958, you can see we only identify, I should say from the very outset, that Tommy went through every single publication he would find, all the colors that he ended up with, to pull out any reference to money, that was donated. And so what I'm sort of doing the money angle here, and I put it into decades. So the early dollar amount we would identify during the first decade was really for $800 to print for Margaret Bear Pratt Fund. In which we could identify as actually acquired were all microfilms, and these are census from whence they came, as I say, the people who came into Dallas. So these are not Dallas County records. These are from South Carolina, Virginia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and above Louisiana and from Pennsylvania. The second decade, we found $300, and we can actually say it's $300. Now, there's no doubt there was more than this. One effort that was not the financial effort per se was in 71. All of the early laws, the Historical and Genealogical Society newsletters that you could be finding in 68 were microfilm. That was a project of the society. And in 1975, the president, Sarah Joseph Morris, they wanted her about annual statements at the end. So that, we had paid a $200 donation as a result of our 20th annual seminar and workshop. And we can also pay 5 books in memory of our deceased members. And we honored Mrs. Lucille Anderson Boykin, with $100 and gave us also 2 books and some periodicals. And who was Mrs. Boykin? She was the person who succeeded Margaret Pratt as head of the genealogy department. And Mrs. Morris herself gave personal donation of 6 books. And I'm sure Barbara would like to mention that Mrs. Morris also at her home hosted a tea for the retirement party of Margaret Pratt when she's retired in 1962. Yeah, pictures of this. I had a whole Margaret Pratt thing going for love and in the interest of time. You don't get it. So in the third decade, you can see we can account for a substantial amount of money, $28,877. What you're seeing here is that the 2 columns on your right. One where it says value, that's an estimated at times value that we could put into dollars for what were really non-cash gifts and then cash gifts. So you can see that these were contributions to different things, but what you're really seeing are that in terms of the acquisition to probate ethics, for example, 29 books, Revolutionary War microfilm records, and then other books and materials donated over 2 years, and indexed to the compiled service records of volunteer soldiers who served in the War of 1812. There's many articles in the Dallas News about this period of time in the late 70s and early 80s that it's sort of like a little bit of marriage here, that the society got involved in doing a project and it was written up in the Dallas News. So you can go through to find in numerous instances of this. And basically what it's saying is that the Public Library received $2,000+ scholarly grant from the Dallas Genealogical Society, celebrating at that time its 25th anniversary. And what was acquired for it was short, acquiring a Revolutionary War of hedging applications and to complete a set of 898 reels at $12 a reel. Some of the third decade, these were additional acquisitions that were made by the society, or given to the library by the society. I've had $30 that you can see that Confederate soldiers, early tax records from Kentucky, the Jess Index to the Pension Fund, Union service records for the borders, Dallas County deeds, grant for grantee indices. So you start to see opalite microfilm coming and being donated. And here is Margaret Ann Thedford writing the family tree which is a column in the Dallas Morning News, originated in 1974. You saw Barretta's slide from Ann Hunt. Ann Hunt did it until 1979, and Margaret, she didn't until early 1991, and Lloyd took it over. And this is a great example of, I think, the continuity of records and how they get transformed into being accessible. So people would write in and say, well, yeah, I'm looking for this, or I have this, or I can't find that. And she would make it, sound really wonderful and very engaging. She'd say, well, on a hunch. I looked up this family. It's Highland Vale, who was married to Alyssa. I didn't know Alyssa's main surname. She looked him out of the Memorial and Bibliographic History of Dallas County, Texas, which was originally published in 1892 and reissued by the Dallas Genealogical Society. And, well, she found with Fanny, of course, in this. She was always around, her articles would frequently come around and point at something that the Dallas Genealogical Society did. She, of course, was a member of the Dallas Genealogical Society. And what I wanted to point out is that the book, this is the Conway record from the Dallas Public Library on your little left, and we still have the microfilm for that book. But on the other side, the Dallas Public Library card catalog will also tell you that cannot just have a microphone book, can have a book. And not only that, but they have basically a web link for the book. I should look more at my time. And if we click on this web link, I don't know if that's going to, if we go take it to the Dallas, the Portal of Texas History, where the book is digitized. Hopefully I don't know if I should do that for you or not. Screw it up. What do you think? Nah, don't do it that time. Okay. So there's a range of me that use show up. And how that they're beautiful. But anyway, so the book is actually online at the Dallas Public Library, and I can see that at the Portal of Texas History. You can just go through your book. So we move, I just want to point here, is that we moved from having a publication from 1892 republished by the Society and subsequently microfilmed by the Society and subsequently digitized and made publicly available on the internet through the Portal of Texas History. So that this is a through time, and we have a few of these things that just lead the Society to important publications from the beginning until Divine Days.
Can I add something?
Yes.
When we reissued it, it included everything index.
Yes, that's correct. You should know that. And who are you?
You feel you correct Danny the cop.
Okay, so here we are on the fourth day, and you can see then the dollar amount is that we were able to find $150,640. Again, you see many acquisitions of microfilm, and you can probably read those yourselves, as well as some cash donations. I think 1988 started to see substantial cash donation of $14,300. Up until now, we get $500, $750, $1,000, $1,200, 1988. We also got in 1989 a $10,000 cash in the Bitcoin is given. I signed $10,000 for those generally national crowd service firms of the war saying. We all know what that cash value was to that. That's money, that's ours. And then we also in 1990 began the campaign to acquire the 1920 census. And in 1991, Spitzer Hasher presented a check for $50,000, for the Notification Fund. And but this became something of a tradition. So, and it began really with that one see in 1988, where these are substantial amounts of money, primarily from their 603 year, where the income then generated by the Society exceeded the cost to put on its sponsored events. So we reached the fourth decade, and the money all of a sudden is $150,640. Well, those of you who were around during this time know that the Canada Expansion Project started about 1993. It was conceived in 1992 and launched. So it began raising quite a bit of money. We're going to take a little other time to talk about that because it was so substantial. But you will see here, in 1991, cash donation of $15,000, 1992, $23,000, 1993, $15,000, 1994, $22,000. This was really, in many ways, the financial payday of the association. at least from the records. In 1990, this is again in the fourth decade, the fifth decade, you see pre-1996, 19,000, and there you see the donation of $101,034. So all of the capital expansion campaign was to raise $150,000 to extend the 8th floor genealogical division. We'll talk more about it. Many you can see in 98, 70,000, 99, 23,000. So the capital expansion project itself, which was by far the most money that was given by the society to the library, it was conceived by a long-range planning committee in 1892. But genealogical interest had grown a great deal in the 80s, and the space allotted for research was confined up on the floor. And so there was a big incentive to want to expand better. However, the city, not surprisingly, I suppose, did not have the funds to do this. And so the society took on the project. In 1993, they began the project formally. They collected money in 1993 from genealogists in many different types of campaigns, including passing cassette meetings. And in 1994, they also had a person, Bill Benson was his name, I believe, William, and he was an architect who was also involved in the society. He donated his services, not only in doing the diagrams and making sure everything that was compliant that was needed for the construction permits, but also in some of the acquisition of furniture equipment. In the end, there was a creative celebration that happened where he, in June 1996, that raised $128,000. So, and of course, a ribbon cutting is, I apologize for this picture, it's this dusting again, but that's Louis Vassar cutting a yellow ribbon, standing in between the president of GGS, Leslie Collier, and the director of the Dallas Genealogical Library, Romero Salazar. There was at a following rotation or 200 guests signed in at the volunteer desk for this and that. And Karen Nova, who was at this time and for the previous 2 years, I believe, chair of the project, writes in the newsletter that it was a volunteer effort, but at a proportions over many years. There was a 3-year rescreen endeavor. It was a pretty mad thing. This is just reading about it. In 1995, I talked about this project here. I went to Shirley Slope to actually do the talking, and I'll do the slides so you can do the talk. Get over here. This is good enough. Okay, then you're good. Can you hear in? I'm sure. Can you see here? I have typically fond memories of 2 projects that have both been fun and productive in our quest to provide resources to the DPL Genealogical Society. The first was assisting a member of the LDS Church to microfilm the earliest Dallas County District Court case papers, dating back to 1846. A team of 57 people worked for over 13 months on the DPL 7th floor preparing and helping to index and microfilm with court records that would be valuable to genealogical research. In October 1996, we had volunteered a total of 3,406 hours of service in this project. And the end result was a set of microfilm reels of Dallas County District Court civil case records from 1846 to 1900 that can now be ordered from Salt Lake City by libraries and research facilities throughout the United States, with 2 sets of the microfilm sets kept here at UPL, one for research at the library, and the second grade will be checked out by patrons or other organizations. Besides learning how to preserve old records, we researchers had great fun. And by the way, received the bonus. It was a surprise to me, but you can already see the bonus up there. LDS credited DPL $5 for every volunteer hour worked, and or over 3,400 hours, translating into a credit for DPL 1,892 free microfilm reels that Lloyd could pick and choose from to bring for permanent then in our library here. So of the 57 people
Could you either stand or raise your hand if you were any part of that project of the filming? Didn't quite figure out that instant, but as an unexpected and a welcome follow-up to the project, a superstar, Alan Miller, in addition to the 450 hours that he spent on the original project, compiled an index of witnesses to the project's microfilm records. And it's available now, both at the library and on the DGS website. So Alan is here. Well, he's standing up big. And we learned a whole lot.
That's so. So, this is now still this decade, and we can see where some computers were donated, and even again, we have these fairly substantial amounts of money that were given. This became sort of at the end of the year, I think at the annual meeting in May, tradition to be able to make these large donations. In 2000, we also received a grant to acquire, and it's a $25,000 grant from the Subtlety Foundation to acquire 447 reels of microfilm covering 1861 to 1881. It's a segment 2 of the Sea Georges of the United States. These take a period of time was of interest because it was an era of time that was a great innovation into the state, even into Texas. And so these were malleable in terms of getting, going back from whence they came. And here's a show we slowed in March of 2005, once again presenting $15,000 check as there must be in reads. In 2006, show the creditors sit down, I'm gonna have to get up. This is the 50th anniversary of the society, and the project that's worked on was a 100,000 book challenge. Shirley, will you do this?
In this slide, it sort of tells it all, except I'm going to tell just a little bit more too. This was my very favorite opportunity for a project. It was 10 years ago. We were celebrating our 50th anniversary, and Roy Boxwood helped to identify an appropriate challenge for the year, the 100,000 book challenge, to increase the number of volumes in our genealogy cycle from 95,641 to 100,000 by the end of 2005. So we solicited donations not only in cash, but in the form of actual publications, books or manuscripts that might provide clues to help a researcher place an ancestor at a particular place or time. The types of materials solicited included alumni lists from schools, membership lists of churches, clubs, social or political and professional organizations, town and country histories and directors, as well as family histories. And you can see that the rule was that the official book count wouldn't increase only when an item had been cataloged. And we achieved our goal on February 1st, 2006. The count was 100,300, with more still in the pipeline. And one beauty of the project is that we received an unexpectedly high number of books from private collections, often books that were no longer or perhaps never had been available through public channels. They applied to an amazing number of localities spread across the United States and outside its borders. Our genealogy collection, already excellent, was now even richer with research materials for our diverse Dallas population. The goal couldn't have been reached without amazing dedication and DPL staff members who ramped up to deal with an increased effort to process the new acquisitions so they were ready to place on 8th floor shelves. They were heroes as their annual workload doubled. And so in January, we hosted a celebration to convey our appreciation to the DPL setup down on L1 and on 84. I had spent some time to identify all the activities involved in preparing a new book for placement on a shelf, and we all found the resulting workflow diagram very, very interesting. The party was for me one of the highlights of the project. And it didn't include everybody, but and Raksha was a cataloger who apparently had something knowing for 100% accuracy she cataloged. And this woman did a whole lot of work down there. We really appreciated her. But anyway, the party was what highlights for me, and getting to meet and work with so many capable and enthusiastic staff members was a rare experience that I treasured then and still do. Today, 10 years later, every now and then, I'll meet one of the L1 staff or DGS volunteers who participated in the project, and we smile.
So we come to then the final day in our 6-year history. And you can see that in 2006, there was a substantial donation. I think we're looking at some acquisitions. You can see some the Mike the Fish acquisition program. I'll talk about in a moment. The Black Bibliographic. The Dictionary of 1950, Creation of Land Records. And then in 2015, the new Go scanner, as well as a supported maintenance contract, was purchased by a site or the library. The Microfiche acquisition project was a 2009 project that many people there, at least from what I read, were involved in. They're basically involved 3 set selection process and analysis of the fish that were available from the Fancy History Library by state and identification of those that we did not have on the 8th floor, and then a production of a potential selection list that was reviewed by the library staff before the acquisitions. Once they were acquired, there has been, I would say, a 2-phase discovery and acquisition process that's gone on. First of all, creating the card catalog records that were available on the 8th floor, and also co-locating in this collection in a microfilm case storage area. And then after that, the DGS itself put the database online. So it's available. You can look at it's just some films. This is the actual catalog records. If you want to see what's there, you can do that on the website. There were 9 GGS members who volunteered for this, and 5 just so the library staff members. I think a few of you are there. Shirley's here. Susan Numbers here. You can all stand if you want to stand yet. And Gloria's here. She hasn't even stand up yet. She would draw. And we have then, of course, Samuel Lee Boyd, Duckstop, and Zed Ed Tonger. They're moderators. So great projects down.
I just have to add something. Patrick isn't here. After we got them all in, he spent over a year putting them into the car cabinet, which is, you don't over there, you don't look for them. So it was a remarkable thing he did.
Right. So 6 decades of support, specific campaigns to acquire records, mostly microfilms, sometimes books, obviously, sometimes books, preservation efforts were some of the campaigns they undertook, and then there were anniversaries. There were also money given as honorariums to the heads of the genealogy division, thanking them and trusting their judgment to grow the collection, as well as to deceased members. And then there were those wonderful years when the society was able to raise a great deal of money and very, very eager to grow the department. So this is our next little drawing bit. And this is for a t-shirt that you can buy what you can get one in your own size, but here's the total amount of money we were able to find. It's over $500,000 that over these 6 decades were given. And this again is a lower amount than it actually was. So we have to see who guessed the dollar amount.
We had 3 correct choices.
Okay. 3 correct choices. This is t-shirt sticker. Yes. She can add it as one the work acted to me.
You know.
Well, she needs to have this hue on if she's aware. Okay, it's very clear. First, see.
It was great. Oh.
And in terms of the Genealogical Society, in 1995, the Dallas Folk Library established an award next month as recognition for their excellence in volunteer service, resulting in the completion of projects directly benefiting the genealogy section of J.R. Johnson Central Library. I'm going to quickly share you the list of the people who've gotten this award. We'll first recognize there's Bill Benson, who you mentioned, Shirley Sloat, Some of these people are so familiar to you now from having read so much. So you are even where in 1990, I'm Rachel's century Gray show. Anybody do see reality kind of cool? It's just, yeah, I don't know many of you. And then we see some people again, I think Aura had Aura. My goodness, Aura. Oh yeah, she's it. And then Shirley, she's one of our two-time designated. So that was a wonderful thing that they did for us. And so in summary, the genealogical collection at the Dallas Genealogical Library. The entire collection in the library was 9,852 volumes recorded in 1901 in the Carnegie Library. In 1955, the Local History Genealogy Society was established as was the local history genealogy department. There, you can see the sun walking in tandem here. In 1998, we announced to the board of directors that there were 55, you just shot for 50,000 books. In 2006, as you heard, 100,000 books were available. And in 2016, Gayla, who probably just about Dale Bush, told me that this year 118,998 books, 64,500 microfilm rolls, 89,000 mass cliche, and 700 mass and charts. The last three items are a bit of an estimate, as they're not cataloged. And the books do include both hardback and thing that's shells, but it's also serials as well as manuscripts. Truly a tremendous collection and a library to be proud of. And the society has just had a wonderful relationship with the library, and we still do at this point in time. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker now. And one thing I wanted to do, I'm a slave box shop. This is the red light blue there, because I just tried to do this on Google. Instead of making massive pictures of the Playboy, this picture, he's there, his buying his child lease there. It's just a Ray shooting the female test. But when it's him, he's always wearing these ties that are like the very common blue, which I didn't know. This is the first picture I could find it, and he came to the library in 1973. This is in 1975, seminar and workshop being held with the Sabbath Hilton. And he was one of the counselors for this breakout group. He could kind of enlighten me on what a counselor did. And then this is a more recent picture of enlightening he was in 2010 at the Allen Public Library talking about geological trends. And the only thing I did notice is that the tie had toned it down. We had these beautiful muted reds and blues and whites, but still red, white, and blue. And Lloyd, it's here on. It's your turn.
I only have one lens in my eye, and I have no bullets. Well, I have to see the best I can, if you could say, read my lips. As you look at the DGS in its context, its heritage, its ancestry, you're struck a lot of things. Quite often I recently read, because now I get to watch Jeopardy 2 times a day, that it was one of the questions on game show television. Do you remember Lady Godiva? Did you read about her in your English literature class? And her husband was the Earl of Mercia. But he was a very harsh man and had a very austere, severe taxing scheme that left his subjects very much deprived of just the land benefits of life. His wife led a charge against it, trying Calvin to solve his words and to restore the funds to the ordinary people who need it most. She would threaten that she would ride in the streets of town nude. He didn't give in. He said, yeah, you go ahead. Well, she did. All the townsfolk, another appreciation of her, saying her influence. shut the shutters, closed the doors, all went indoors. There wasn't a single other human being to be seen anywhere in the streets of Coventry. Except for one fellow. When Heidi peered in and looked around, his name was Walt. He didn't hit the saw, so he became beating saws. I have Dallas Genealogical Society to see who is the silver dog. But I said that time, but sorry, Barrett says. DGS, I've been a member for 43 years. I don't think there's anyone else in this room who's been recorded for a year. Am I correct? Create something to survive. But it's another feathers, that's so. If you look at the memories over the years, in education, in life there, and a home we had, and the places that we've led them can be, eventually they end up as we are today in the library's auditorium. And the previous library has an auditorium. And one tornado drill, y'all took a base there. Were you there for that event? Yes. The society was the first one to have a female member who became a certified genealogist in the United States of America. Which is a man's world. It's women finally took control of genealogy. And then there was a second one. I knew both because I'm very good at it. Margaret Kraft, as all good genealogy librarians, used her own money. Where did she go on vacation? Library of Archives. One vacation, she went to every library in the South and up to the East Coast to New York, learning about the genealogical gap of her, and bringing back ideas she could implement here. And she started buying books once she could get money. Who was the first president of the DGS? Greens. No, not John Blaster. It was also not Dallas High School. It's 2 blocks from my house. And the next one's mine. And the next one's mine. But her unwritten rule won't fire than any other rules that are published. No woman shall be elected president of the society. How did you allow God that you all really like that? But that's why it's this way. This is Harry Joseph Moss finally built that tradition. In fact, her educational programs, they had one education. They met with the Hilton Hotel, which is right next to the library. And then it culminated the Thursday, Friday, Saturday events. Culminated on Sunday evening with a band culminate the week's events in the hotel bonding room. When will their ebook out? They were the light low, be the reception line. I never see anything like that in the world. Talk about the country in another world. I thought, how interesting. I don't care to like the rest of these. And with those books, of course, in those days, we had a chapter as an elected officer. And it was ordained clergy. So the clergyman gave the invocation. And then the Zion president began to call all the distinguished guests in the room individually and talk on and invite them to say something. And it went from 6:30 to 7, 7:30, 8, it's a 9, it's a 10, it's an 11. But she was still going. She'd have planned beyond the initial section that she would have the Armed Forces Color Guard to open up the ceremonies that the officers came down the Central Line and the dying. And finally she gave up and she said, "Will the color guard please retire the colors?" No response. "Will the color guard please retire the colors?" No response. College, after her third or fourth grade, one person called into the lobby. "Color guard is not to be there." Said, "Well, they were home at midnight." We could laugh ourselves. And we did so. We never got the money we deserved. I know them all three. I know myself. I knew my two predecessors. I met both of them. Barbara Pratt and Lucille Blake. And Lucille Blake had became the genealogy librarian. She had not worked in genealogy. She got it in me because she had a Scottish grandparent and German grandparent. She was interested in both of those ethnic traditions. So, as she continued on for life, the GTS said, "Well, we want you to be the best to help us and all of our Churchill members." We will send you to the Institute of Genealogy in Washington, D.C. for a full week. She got first-hand instruction from the best genealogical teachers in the United States and in Britain, so that her part, one is Dr. James Stevens of Texas, in the Texan village. It was quite a fanfare. When I came there in 73, I started on St. Valentine's Day. I came down in January. They asked, "How did you come to Texas?" I said, "By Greyhound." That was the way to get here. And I stayed at the White Plaza Hotel because it was just a lot of the Dallas Genealogical. And in the lobby, Sergeant Fritz ate as much every day. I recognized Sergeant Fritz. You know where he was? Yes. Yes. Zach Riddle was killed because this man you see there in the white hair. And I thought touching history, and I lived through that. I came down, I go to the Dallas Library, which is this second building that we had at 1954 College, to replace the old, it's Carnegie. He is not, all the libraries are Carnegie libraries. I went to libraries here, you could trust me. It's the University of Hawaii they told you that. With the Carnegie Library, I was walking and I looked at the door. It looked like a sofa rather than a library. And there was this boy standing in a gigantic cane. I thought I got to investigate this. The honest to me, didn't have any pants on that boy. That was one of the greatest bureaus of Dallas Genealogical. It's people saw it. And everybody advertised new boys on the outside of the library. And they couldn't leave the library and moved to the YMCA because of some of the members' connection. When I came to Dallas, Texas, I met W.A. Christo and he was on mission activity in the Central Coast. I thought I'd go out to visit first after church when I get to Dallas, Texas. because there's this long historical connections with the hell. And someone told me that W.A. Criswell goes Sunny, the YMCA. Well, that makes sense. Which is right next door, look, across the street. Goes something new. A Baptist minister that goes something new in the public life. I only learned in recent years since retired that can't read things out in a red board. It was a requirement on YMCA that all male be new to use the symbol.
Oh, I find it just from wherever he is how we can national policy.
Of the YMCA.
In that first year I was here,
Slime in February, because I came in and I spied out the last. I picked out who Mrs. Barkley must be. I looked at all the other students. I walked around the aisles, looking at the books, see what we had. Later that year, we moved down one flight of stairs to the mezzanine. I wore my shorts. I moved everything up one floor to another. It was hard to take, spreading like a dog. And the corrected secretary came through and she was just aghast. The library staff would be wearing shorts. It was forbidden. I didn't know that. When the mixed college kid, they come home to wear shorts. I got a very bad captain's score. I could read to it along. This in the library academy was Wilbur Helmboldt, who had founded the Institute of Genealogy at Stanford University, and he told me about. And I had just come out of graduate school. I hadn't worked a full year in my life. I had plenty of student debt. And how could I afford to live a week in Alabama, let alone buy tickets on an airplane? Well, Jean Lush, the president of the DGS, and she said, Lord, you can ride with me, I'm driving. Well, the husband said, I'm not going to let her go by herself. Gotta have somebody else living. You go ahead and go with her. So there are 3 laws to Birmingham, Alabama. I worked with the Friends of the Library, and they had extra money, and they paid my tuition. They're good people in Dallas, Texas, and in DGS. As the library prosecuted sought to grow, it brought Pat Chempo, the Fort Worth Genealogy Library, and it brought other library from the National Archives came George Yunker. He is really a knowledgeable person, as he had family records that the rest of us did not have our data checks or even know about. But he came to Texas, Dallas, the DGS members always turned down great numbers. Edna Perry Decker. Any of you recognize Edna Perry Decker? She was a DGS member, and she was president of the Texas State Genealogical Society. And she was up in years, many more years than I've now achieved. And one night she got away from her attendant. It's out to the telephone and she called me late at night. It was 10 to midnight, somewhere like that. They talked and I thought, who's lunching? Where are our kids? Where's the caregiver? And she said, I know his Terry Joe Sports is a transvestite. If I could just have her in the hotel lobby and pushing the swimming pool, she had to get undressed. Well, I broke so. There is I am. They prepared it. We rented all kinds of hotels. And we had our meetings in churches. And we had our meetings in the block, bring large texts and stuff. And we brought the greatest genealogical research, John in the College, Norman Ledger, Dr. James Stevens, Mary Lore, was one of the earliest, and the Reverend Silas Lucas. But they even brought from England Leslie G. Pye, come and sit here in Texas. It was a wonderful place to get a genealogical education. Now it's a wonderful place to get lunch. It's a Central Standard Time. I appreciate you all. You're going to have a lot more fun. You find the next person saying they've been here 40 years. Right up, letting on every genealogy librarian. Say, right, thank you.
How do you follow that? Lawyer Aki. Let's say it's Sonny so. I just said keeping with the spirit, and since they had introduced me, that's how I looked up those many as us. I'm just going to go over a couple of things that we didn't fit in the other categories very well, and we're just going to touch on this one. In 1975, it was the National Women's Year, and that was the year we elected our first female president, Mrs. Harry Joseph Morris. Was the person that cracked the DBS. On May 24th of that year, the city of Dallas planned to elope to the start of the Genealogical Society Day. And on July 4th, they had tea at the Women's Forum in honor of all past presidents and their founders. I had nothing booked July 4th this year, so they're finding it. But in 1994, we used our annual awards. In honor of volunteer year, we issue an award of merit, a heritage preservation, and a distinguished special award named after its first recipient, was blown by a shark there. We've had a number of awards for proclamations throughout the year, several in the 90s related to our capital expansion project. The Dallas Town Historical Commission presented an award of appreciation in 1992. In 1993, the National Genealogical Society presented their award of achievement by our organization to us. And that's our precedent of time. There's mostly other sound accused of receiving the award. So we, in the kind of the recognize a lot of accomplishments. We're like geek at evergreen, looking back on everything that we have done, probably the 1997 to 2002 period, we're into the golden years of the society. That was the time that we cracked the 1,000 number limit. Of course, that'd be for Capital Expansion Program. We got Summerlee Grant. Lloyd Boxwick received the very first Billy Prize. And as the society remained we boasted the Federation of Genealogical Societies Harmons here in Dallas. We're both the hosts of society, and we sponsored the wrap-up event at Olset Park. I can only imagine how excited and probably apprehensive we were in 1995 when we got for it to be had been chosen. But the committee jumped into the playing the Midas in the midst of the capital expansion program too. I can't imagine how everybody kept their sanity. But Karen Miller was supposed to chair that Mudstock, Shawn Mann, Robert Ossett, Eddie Robinson, Don Schultes were all from the committee that managed to plan this thing, which at first took a tremendous amount of input from the members of the society as well. Everything at Ray was a huge success, and managed to get the city of Dallas, the county, Dallas Hemming, as well as the state of Texas to declare that week Family History Week. And but that Grammy was quite a success. I mean, even Dick Eastman, who attended this, said this was the best organized conference he had ever attended at the time. And the society reached quite a bit of financial benefit from it as well, raising over $30,000, and you very first how he spent that money. Good boys there. We've always been a performer of social media and technology along the website. Indeed, to update revised it multiple times, just to kind of keep up with the technology. We've been honored to receive some awards for our website from the Texas State Genealogical Society, And we're continuing to expand into social media, primarily Facebook and Twitter, and I'm sure we'll link up to you that wants to incorporate tragedies as well. Our seminars are continuing our tradition of excellence. We have surveyed the participants for the last 3 that have attended. In every case, we've had more than that, or at least 95% say yes, they will attend a future seminar. We've had never less than 89% say they're either very satisfied or extremely satisfied. And in fact, we've had a 97% for one of the conferences. So the things that people are saying is they like the warm and welcome feeling they get when they come to the seminar. They think the presentations are extremely high quality, and they think the people that we bring in to make the presentations are just phenomenal presenters. And so we intend to continue trying to improve this as we did with Home Owner. For the first time, we offered the ability to download the seminar electronically, or to participants either electronically or in paper format. With Bulletin 11 that you heard about, it's going to be Unshared Breed seminar. I think you saw some of her titles. You can get a hint how fun she's going to be. I was scanning all of them. Dirty pictures. Save your family photos from ruin. That's a great seminar. The highlight is going to be something that we're calling an heirloom roadshow. We're going to allow participants to submit to Denise a description of some heirloom they have. She's been selected from them, and as part of the seminar, I should talk about how to preserve and keep that for future generations of well. So I think it's going to be a really great one, and a little more Iraqi in some of the things they've had in the past. Courage, I see more Kleenex and more. It's almost like saying wood boxer. So I know if you know Courage and really enjoyed the seminar on Saturday, we're a little more excited about what's going to happen the day before. On the 16th, we're going to post a North Texas Society Summit. We just mailed off the invitations a couple of days ago. We have invited, I believe, 6 meet societies to participate from all around North Texas on the day before the seminar. We're posting Courage and participate and give a couple of lectures there. We're underwriting costs and do this as they're trying to step up and become more of a leader amongst the societies in the North Texas region. And hope that this is going to help not just us, but our societies around us plan for their success and help ensure that they're able to continue doing the things that we've been doing so wrong and so on. Tom Dillon's another man who needs no introduction. We're going to reintroduce something that's done in the past, and that's the day before to an advanced classroom workshop. A great opportunity to get in very close proximity and work very intimately with the man who was just incredibly knowledgeable. So it's had a highly immaculate that may involve some great homework, and we're going to limit this to 30 attendees as well. So just some of the things that we're trying to do to make the seminars about all the way to use better. I mentioned Billy Grates of that. We're going to see us working more cemeteries. Enough said about that. We referenced the Port of Texas History quite a bit throughout this for our reason. We've got a great relationship with them. We love working with them. They've given several grants to help get our information up online. We're one of 300 content providers, so more than 300 content providers, so we're providing information that and digitize and put them on with the site sort of the national and probably even international recognition. They 500,000 visits every month, and it's just incredible about of information pertinent to the history and genealogy of Texas, and something that we really want to support. And what we're going to be doing is, and you've heard so much about how we've given back in the library, how much we've tried to preserve records and what have you. What we're going to do starting next year is we're going to launch an initiative to provide some funding for something that's very important for the world of Texas history. They just recently received something that's just phenomenal, a National Endowment Humanities grant. They got $500,000 available to them if they can raise another $1.5 million from this. And so they're just launching this initiative. It's a 3-year effort to try to raise the $1.5 million to get the additional $500,000, all of which is going to go towards ensuring that the Port of Texas History, which already has so much great information, is able to continue to operate throughout the future without risk those fluctuations in budget cycles and things like that. So this is non-fun should help ensure that the portal is truly what it is always meant to be from the beginning, which is a great repository of information that anyone that's interested in Texas history just loves to go to. So you're going to see in September, if we take a chance to set our budget and set our targets and kind of identify what we want to do, an initiative, much like we've done in the past, to try to raise money to help support this wonderful resource. And Delvin's that's there from the portal. And she's going to be up there as we bid out, and he has to kick you just a few minutes so you can talk to her out in the future. But you're going to hear more about that in September. One of the things that we wanted to do when we planned this was to make sure that they had some enduring legacies things that last longer than the cake that we're about to have out there. We've already seen the first installment of this analysis, the 50th anniversary commemorative issue of Pegasus. And again, on the thanks Sandra Crowley, Marianne Zabel, again, Kashat, and the others contributed material and editing and work for producing this a really wonderful legacy for us. So again, thank everybody involved with that. And that's just one thing we're going to have to look back. And by the way, we still got our Cosmos available for sale. So if you didn't have one, or if you want to give them as a Christmas present, something Southwest Union Stable, can you have some more available. The other thing we did for this, and I had to apologize to Billy that begs us that you did have all the stuff online, and you did all, so I know you're going to upload them through the paper copies. We have since then digitize everything and made it available on the website. And so that's when Mother Legacy, what we have, you either go and view all these documents online and escape them from the comfort of your own home. The other thing that we did was took advantage of a software hackers that Susan Younger and Barbara Rhoda started when they had reached that this year, something called the History Project. This is a free piece of software that lets you literally create a timeline. And you can go in and say, on this date, this happened, and here's a bunch of stuff associated with it. And so as we're acquiring for today, we use this as a tool to try to catalog and organize the information of our entire history. And so if you go and look at this, it is available from the link in our website. You can see from the very beginning there, 1930, all the way through just about current today, a multitude of events, descriptive information. We've tried to link it back into the newsletters and quarterlies and the journals and the Pegasus articles as well. It's a fascinating glimpse of our history. It helped us, as I said, organize this talk and about such a good thing recently that's firmly part of our website. So if you go to our website, go to the homepage, it's available there all the time. And it's something that you can just continue to peruse and read all the things that Chris usually did. Wow. I want to tell you, as this, recently we've not the President Society, it is humbling to stand here and represent a society with this time yesterday. And what an incredible reach we have of accomplishment in Japan. You know, it would be really easy to just say, well, our best years are behind us, so let's start down and take it easy. But I don't think that's what you elected this board to do, and that's not what we're going to be ranking the rest of our roles. And I know with the help of all of you that 60 years from now, so based on scanning here, probably this is nervous lying going, Bob, what if 60 years those people had? And that's what we're going to work for again with your help. So thank you, City, for a very long presentation. Catherine, Carolyn, Barbara, thank you so much for the second of them without you. Thank you, Gusto. This has been a presentation of the Dallas Genealogical Society. If you're already a member, thank you. Your membership dues are supporting this and other society activities. If you're not yet a member, I hope you consider joining. You can become a member for as little as $35 a year, and you can join by going to our website, dallasgenealogy.org, and clicking on the membership tab.